It's been a while since I featured an electric bike on the channel, but this e-bike, which is quite affordable, with a spectacular design and a range of up to 120 kilometers, has managed to impress. It made me grab my helmet again, get on this Eleglide M3, and record this awesome video full of spectacular scenery. As you're about to see, it'll make you feel like you're the one pedaling. This is the best time to get on a bike and enjoy riding for miles and miles. And as of today, this is probably the best value for money e-bike you can find on the market. And although it still has some drawbacks, as you'll see next, it's unlikely that any other brand will give you more for less. Do you like riding a bike without emptying your wallet? Check out this new e-bike from Eleglide, the Eleglide M3. And you're already seeing the unboxing of this beast. It weighs 27 kilos. And by the way, you know I've already reviewed the previous version here. That is the Eleglide M2. I have to say that when it comes to accessories, this new model is better equipped, like this rear light and also some gloves that the other model didn't include. It also includes the front light and several accessories you can add, as well as a fully Spanish manual that's in full color, which is really appreciated. And by the way, this would be the power supply. I should also mention that this power supply is much smaller than the previous one and lighter too. It has an LED that goes from red to green when the battery is fully charged. Before heading to the forest, I want to mention a few things I liked about this unboxing. They don't use styrofoam anymore, unlike the other model where everything was covered in plastic balls. Now they use a different plastic. Another thing I liked is that the wheels aren't completely deflated this time. They're partially inflated. And they have details like those grooves on the handlebar which help guide you better when assembling the bike. By the way, as you can see in this close-up shot, the screws also come lubricated. Also, the wheel reflectors are already installed. And now, put on your helmet and let's start the ride with this Eleglide M3. I have to say that I've been testing it for several weeks and I've used it through rivers, forests, wet terrain, sunny terrain. I've also taken it in the mountains, on more or less paved trails, and on regular roads. So I think I have the necessary experience to make the most accurate analysis possible about this electric bike. Is it really the best electric bike of 2025? Above all, obviously taking into account the price range in which this e-bike plays. First of all, the design is something that has changed, and I like it compared to the evolution you feel if you look at the previous version. Now it's a more streamlined bike. It's made of an aluminum alloy, supports up to 120 kilos of weight, and also has a matte blue color that looks really good on it. There you have the controller box, and right on the other side of the frame is the battery. I'll talk about it later because I think this is where some of the magic of this Eleglide M3 lies. This curved frame, which gets thicker towards the handlebars and thinner towards the seat, honestly looks really good, not just visually, but it also gives it a certain aerodynamic quality. Overall, I really like the design. The change from the previous generation is noticeable and feels great. But anyway, let's move on to the next point, which is something that has also changed a lot, and that's this LCD screen. Now it gives you a lot more information in full color. You already know that the previous one was monochrome, much simpler. And even though this one is in full color, you can see that even with direct sunlight, you can still see the screen perfectly. And something else I really liked are the buttons. They're extremely intuitive to the touch. Not only are they big and made of rubber, but they also have, here, in this microscopic image, you can see it better, a kind of 3D texture. Some are higher, others are lower. The one at the bottom has an L shape. You don't have to think about it much just by brushing it with your fingertip. You already know which key you want to press. And these small details are very important for this type of electric bicycles. It would have 5 speeds. Level 1, 12 kilometers per hour. Level 2, 15 kilometers per hour. Level 3, 18. And level 4, 21. And level 5, the maximum, 25 kilometers per hour. Also, if you hold down the down key, it has a mode that moves forward without pedaling up to 6 kilometers per hour. In addition, it gives you all kinds of information, not just the kilometers per hour you're going, but also the trip you've taken, the average speed you've maintained during the ride, and so on. And of course, this e-bike is no exception. You can connect it to your smartphone via Bluetooth, whether it's Android or iOS, and you can set a password, a personal riding mode, and you can see various statistics like speed, distance, route, and so on. And by the way, if you hold down the up button, the front light turns on, which actually shines quite brightly. It's LED. It's enough, you could say. And the rear light also has a light, but it's fixed. I would have liked it to be flashing. Still, the rubber button is pretty easy to find, and you can even press it while you're riding. And now let's talk about one of the crown jewels of this Eleglide M3, which is its battery. And now you can see that it's much more streamlined and also very sturdy, with certain metal areas that feel very durable. And that's because it's a 48V battery with a total capacity of 576 watt-hours, which allows it to reach, and that's no small feat, a range of up to 120 kilometers. And you've already seen that rubber flap, which indicates that this e-bike has IPX4 protection against dust and water. In fact, I've tested it myself, riding in the rain and with tools, and I haven't had any problems. But one of the things I like most is how easy it is to use. And it's about taking it out. Look, because this time you don't remove it through rails, but rather you take it out to the side. It's very easy. Also, those metal parts actually give it quite a bit of durability. Not just the ones at the bottom, but also the ones at the top with that metallic orange tab. And also the lock is built right into the bike frame, which I also like. And when it comes to putting it back, it's just as easy as taking it out. You just have to listen for a click and it will be properly in place. And now let's talk about the second crown jewel of this e-bike, which is its great motor. Despite its price, it's one of the best in this range of and it's a 48-volt brushless motor with a power of 250 watts, which has a maximum output torque of 50 Newton meters. In addition, in this new version, the cadence sensor has been improved and now provides smoother pedal assist. Another difference from the previous version is the new Shimano gear shifter, a very well-known brand, and it has 7 speeds. However, for me, that's a small downside. It doesn't include chain rings, only cogs, just 7 speeds. I think the previous version was better equipped in this regard. However, as the saying goes, you win some, you lose some. Even though they've cut back in this area, this shifter feels much quieter. It's obviously not the quietest bike in the world, but this aspect has improved a lot compared to the previous version. And after testing it for a few weeks, I have to say that the gears shift very smoothly, much smoother in this regard than the previous version. So, as I said before, it's a bit of good and a bit of bad with this Shimano shifter. And let's go over the rest of the specifications of this e-bike, which is perfect not only for riding calmly, but also for tackling rougher terrain. You could say that this Eleglide M3 is pretty capable on all kinds of terrain. Or even if the braking conditions are somewhat dangerous, that's because it has 2 hydraulic disc brakes. And the truth is that the braking distance is quite short. The brake bite is pretty consistent. And honestly, that gives you a certain sense of security. I also like the detail on the handlebar. It has rubber grips with these grooves that help wick away sweat. And that shape also makes it quite airy. You don't feel much fatigue no matter how many hours you spend pedaling. And speaking of pedals, it's the little details that make a good bike. Check out those studs. They grip perfectly to any type of footwear. Even the kickstand feels really well made, very sturdy, the kind that will last you a lifetime. As for the saddle, it's also changed compared to the previous version. It's a bit softer, with a slightly different design. You could say it's a little bigger, and the geometry has changed. Honestly, no matter how many hours I've spent riding this bike, I still haven't felt any fatigue. And regarding the suspension, it's a hydraulic suspension with an 80mm front fork, which can also be locked and the suspension level can be adjusted. That's a good point, and I think this remains the same as the previous version. And let's talk about the wheels. These are 29 inches, If you're looking at all the sizes there, in fact, I'll leave the more technical specifications for you in the link below in the video description. But these are wheels with prominent knobs, even more prominent than the Kenda wheels from the previous version. In those close-up shots, you can see grooves on each knob. As I mentioned earlier, I've tested it on various terrains without any issues. Whether it's wet, dry, or muddy, it's held up at all times, and this, once again, is an extra safety feature. I admit that I've had a great time riding this e-bike. I felt safe, I felt comfortable, and even though the gears aren't the quietest in the world, even though they've improved compared to the previous version, I think its value for money is more than satisfactory, and you're going to see it right now in the price of this Eleglide M3. You're already seeing it on this website, 829.89 euros, plus a year of free insurance. And on this other website, I'll leave you both. Further down in the video description at 819.99, a bit cheaper. I don't know when you'll watch this video, but it's probably even cheaper now, considering that the best electric bikes of 2025 from competing brands don't even come close to those 120 kilometers of range and still cost quite a bit more than this one. Well above 1,000 euros, it's not a bad price. Considering all the features discussed in the video and the improvements over the previous version, I think comfort and safety are the two words I would use to describe this Eleglide M3. And if you're looking for a similar bike for yourself or as a gift and you don't want to spend too much, I think this e-bike could be an alternative you should consider. And now I hope you like this electric bike. I admit I had a great time recording. I've traveled hundreds of kilometers to bring you this video filmed in spectacular places. Anything you need, just leave it for me down below. In the comments, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a like so I can keep pedaling to bring you these landscapes. And now I'll see you in the next video. Best regards and see you soon.